I've always been paranoid about online privacy. I never posted my location in real time, kept all my social media accounts private, and only accepted people I personally knew. That's why, when I received a friend request from a profile with no picture, a strange discomfort settled in. The name seemed odd, yet there was a nagging familiarity I couldn't quite place. Maybe it was a coincidence, maybe someone from my past with a different username. I ignored it and moved on. But the next day, I got a message. Just a short sentence. "Do you still sleep with your closet door open?" My stomach twisted. That wasn't something just anyone would know. As a kid, I used to leave my closet door slightly open because total darkness scared me. It seemed silly now, but who could possibly know that? No pictures of mine showed it, and I had never mentioned it online. I felt uneasy and immediately asked my mom if she recognized the name on the profile. She frowned and said she had never heard of it. My brother denied knowing it too. I tried to remember if it was an old schoolmate or someone from my childhood, but nothing came to mind. I tried to shake it off, but that night another message arrived. "When you were 6, you cried because you lost your seashell necklace. You found it under your bed, remember?" A cold shiver ran down my spine. I remembered that. It was a necklace my grandmother gave me before she passed away. I lost it for days and cried a lot until I found it covered in dust under my bed. No one else knew about it. No one. My heart pounded. I searched the profile again, but there were no posts, no pictures, no friends, just that familiar name I still couldn't place. I started feeling paranoid. I asked my closest friends if they had made a fake profile to mess with me, but everyone swore they hadn't. Even the ones who loved playing pranks said they had nothing to do with it. Then, the next night, I received something worse, a link. Just a link to an old online forum. The site's title was generic, something like shared memories, but when I clicked on it, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The pinned post had my full name. I opened it and found pages and pages of text describing my life. Tiny details, what time I used to wake up, my daily routines as a teenager, the routes I took to school. The descriptions were so specific that I felt more exposed than I ever had before. And then came the pictures. Old pictures of me, some that I remembered taking but had never posted, and others I had never seen before in my life. My body froze. How did someone have these pictures? Some were ordinary me studying, looking out the window, walking down the street. Others were worse. One showed my bedroom at night, as if someone had taken the picture from my doorway. Another showed my bed with the blanket pulled back, as if someone had been there while I was sleeping. My stomach twisted into knots. I had never taken those pictures, and I had never allowed anyone else to either. I slammed my laptop shut and tried to steady my breathing. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. Who was doing this? I called a friend, but I felt ridiculous trying to explain. Someone has pictures of me that I never took, but how could I prove it? How could I know how long they had been watching me? I stayed up all night with every light on, staring at my bedroom door, phone in hand, waiting for more messages. They didn't come that night, but they came the next day. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a video. My fingers trembled as I pressed play. The footage was shaky, grainy, like it was recorded on an old phone. At first, it just showed a dark wall. Then, the camera slowly turned. My bedroom as it looked that night. The same position of objects, the light still on. The video ended with the camera moving toward my empty bed. I panicked. I left my apartment immediately and went to my parents' house. Crying, I showed my brother the video, but when I opened my phone's gallery, the file was gone. It had disappeared. I checked the backup, the trash folder, everywhere. Nothing. My brother tried to calm me down, saying I must have been dreaming, but I knew what I had seen. Someone had been inside my room, and they had filmed it. I thought about going to the police, but what would I say? Someone knows everything about me and has videos of my room? They'd ask if there were signs of forced entry, if there were witnesses. There was nothing. Nothing but my word and a crippling fear. That night, I decided to do something I had never done before. I left my phone recording while I slept. I needed proof. I woke up the next morning with the phone still in my hand. I opened the recording, anxious and terrified. At first, there was only silence, the sound of my steady breathing. But at 3:47 a.m. something changed. A low noise like someone breathing near the microphone. Then footsteps. I lay motionless in bed while the camera picked up the sound of someone moving around my room. But the worst part was at the end. A whisper right next to the mic. "Do you remember me now?" I threw the phone across the room and ran to the bathroom, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Who was this person? What did they want from me? I spent the whole day at my parents' house, avoiding my phone, avoiding thinking about that voice. But when I finally gathered the courage to go back to my apartment, I found the door slightly open. Inside, everything was exactly as I had left it. Nothing was stolen. Nothing seemed out of place, except for one thing. Sitting neatly in the middle of my bed was a necklace. My seashell necklace, the one I lost when I was a child. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the necklace as if it were a venomous snake. My first thought was that it couldn't be real. It had to be a replica, some trick. But as I stepped closer, my breath caught in my throat. The worn-out string, the tiny chip on the side of the shell, I recognized it instantly. This was my necklace, the same one I had lost when I was 6. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. It felt real, solid, a part of my past that should have been long gone. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them making sense. Who could have found it? How could they have known its significance? I turned in a slow circle, scanning the room, half expecting to see someone standing in the shadows. But there was no one. The apartment was silent, too silent. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, clutching the necklace, phone in hand, scrolling through every app, every message, looking for something, anything that could explain what was happening. But there was nothing. No new messages, no notifications. The profile that had started all of this was gone, deleted, as if it had never existed. At some point, exhaustion won. My eyes burned from lack of sleep. My body ached from tension. I lay down, still gripping the necklace, and let my eyes close for just a moment. That was when I heard it. A faint creak, like weight shifting on the floorboards. My body stiffened, my pulse hammering in my ears. It came from the hallway, right outside my bedroom door. I wanted to believe it was just the apartment settling, that I was imagining things, my sleep-deprived brain playing tricks on me. But then came the whisper, "I knew you'd come back." The voice was right outside my door. I barely stifled a scream, my breath catching in my throat. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't move. My limbs felt heavy, my fingers numb around the necklace. And then the door handle moved, a slow, deliberate turn. I bolted upright, heart pounding, fumbling for my phone. The handle stopped. Silence stretched thick in the air. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but who would believe me? I was alone, utterly alone. Or so I thought. My phone screen lit up in my hand, a new notification appearing at the top. A message, no sender, no profile picture. Just one chilling line, "Check the closet." I dropped my phone like it had burned me. My closet, the same one I used to leave open as a child, afraid of what might be lurking inside. My mouth was dry, my heart slamming against my ribs. Slowly, I turned my head toward it. The door was closed, but had it been closed before? I forced myself to stand, every muscle screaming at me to run instead. With a shaking hand, I reached out, fingers grazing the cool metal of the handle. I hesitated, then yanked it open in one swift motion. The closet was empty, or at least it should have been. There were my clothes, my shoes, my storage boxes. Everything looked normal, but the feeling remained, that suffocating, crawling sensation of being watched. I wanted to slam the door shut and pretend none of this was happening, but then I saw it. A single piece of paper, resting on top of one of my shoe boxes. My stomach dropped. I reached for it with trembling fingers, unfolding it carefully. The handwriting was eerily familiar. Messy, slightly slanted, but I recognized it. It was mine. The note was short, just 5 words scrawled across the page in my own handwriting. "You were never supposed to forget." My legs nearly gave out beneath me. My mind scrambled for an explanation, any logical reason why a note, written in my own hand, was inside my closet, left there by someone or something that clearly wasn't me. I tried to recall if I had ever written those words before, but nothing came to mind. Yet the familiarity of them sent a chill deep into my bones. I stumbled back, gripping the paper so tightly my knuckles turned white. I needed to leave. I needed to get out of that apartment. I turned toward the door, my breath coming in sharp, shallow gasps. That's when I heard it. A soft rustling behind me. Slow, deliberate. The closet door, which I had left wide open, was now inching closed. I didn't think I ran. Bolted out of the apartment, down the stairs, nearly tripping over my own feet in my panic. I didn't stop until I was outside, standing in the cold night air, gasping for breath. My phone was still in my hand. I unlocked it, fingers shaking, and opened my messages. The last one was still there, check the closet. But there was something new now. Another message, received just as I had fled the apartment. You're getting closer. I spent the night at my parents' house, locked in my childhood bedroom, every light on. Sleep was impossible. My mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. Who was doing this? How did they know these things about me? And why did I feel deep down like there was something I should remember, something just out of reach? The next morning, I forced myself to go back to the apartment. I couldn't keep running. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to stop. The place was exactly as I had left it, nothing out of place. No signs of forced entry. Even the closet door was open again, as if daring me to look inside. I hesitated at the doorway, my heart pounding. Then, gathering what little courage I had left, I stepped inside. The shoebox where I had found the note was still there. My clothes still hung neatly, but something was missing. The note, it was gone. Panic clawed at my throat. I searched the entire closet, the entire apartment. Nothing. It had vanished. Just like the video. Just like the messages that kept disappearing after I read them. I grabbed my phone, opened my camera, and started recording. I needed proof. I needed something tangible. But when I turned back to the closet, my stomach dropped. There was something new inside, a small, dusty mirror propped against the back wall. I hadn't put it there. I hadn't seen it before. Slowly, I stepped closer, my own reflection coming into view. And then I saw it, not my reflection, not just mine. Someone else was standing behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. My chest tightened, my breath coming in frantic gasps. I looked back at the mirror. The figure was gone. Just my own terrified face staring back at me. But I knew what I had seen. I wasn't alone. A new message appeared on my phone, the notification sound making me flinch. You're almost there. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the mirror with both hands, ready to throw it, to smash it, but something stopped me. As my fingers grit the frame, a memory surfaced. A buried fragment of my past, rising like a corpse from deep water. This mirror. I had seen it before. I was just a kid, maybe 5 or 6. I was at my grandmother's house playing in the attic. There had been an old mirror there, covered in dust, its glass warped with age. I had looked into it and I couldn't remember. My mind recoiled, as if something inside me refused to let me see. But I knew somehow that this was the same mirror. And I knew without a doubt that this had all started long before the messages, before the forum, before I had ever lost that necklace. Something had been watching me for years, waiting. I couldn't stay in that apartment another second. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and left without looking back. I didn't know where to go, but I knew I couldn't stay there. Not with that mirror. Not with whatever had been trying to remind me of something I wasn't sure I wanted to remember. The last message I received was 2 days later. I was at my parents' house, considering never going back. My phone buzzed in the middle of the night. A single notification. You can't run forever. I haven't replied. I haven't gone back, but I know it's not over. And the worst part? I think I'm starting to remember. I tried to push the memories away, to convince myself that it was all a sick prank, some elaborate hoax designed to mess with my head. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't just someone watching me. It was something I had forgotten, something I had ignored for years. And now it was making sure I wouldn't ignore it any longer. For days, I stayed at my parents' house, jumping at every sound, checking my phone constantly, waiting for another message, but nothing came. The silence was almost worse. It felt like a held breath, like something was waiting for me to make the next move. The paranoia ate away at me until I finally broke. I needed answers. I needed to remember. I decided to go back to my grandmother's house. It had been abandoned since she passed away years ago, but no one in my family had the heart to sell it. It was still there, untouched, frozen in time. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. If this was connected to something in my past, then I had to face it alone. Walking into that house was like stepping into a memory. The scent of old wood and dust filled the air. The floorboards creaked under my weight, just as they had when I was a kid. I made my way up to the attic, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might stop, and there it was. The old mirror, covered in grime, its frame splintered with age. I stood in front of it, my reflection barely visible through the dust. My hands trembled as I reached out, wiping the glass clean. At first, I saw only myself, but as I stared, something shifted. The attic around me seemed to darken, the air growing thick and heavy, and then I saw it. Not behind me this time, but in the reflection itself. A shadow, barely distinguishable, standing just beyond my shoulder. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The memory hit me like a wave crashing into my mind all at once. I had seen it before, all those years ago. I had been playing in the attic alone when I first looked into this mirror, and something had been there, watching me from inside the glass. I had screamed, ran downstairs to my grandmother, sobbing about a man in the mirror. She had held me close, whispering something over and over, words I couldn't remember. But I remembered her locking the attic door after that, keeping it shut for good. Except I had forgotten, or maybe I had been made to forget. The figure in the mirror shifted, closer. My throat tightened, my legs frozen in place. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't dare look away. Slowly, the shadow began to take shape. A hand, a face, familiar too familiar. It was me, not just my reflection. Another version of me, standing inside the mirror, staring back with hollow eyes. And then it spoke. "You left me here." I stumbled back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The mirror trembled, as if something inside was trying to break through. I didn't think. I grabbed the closest thing, a rusted old lantern, and swung it with all my strength. The glass shattered, splintering into 1,000 pieces. A scream echoed through the attic, but it wasn't mine. It was something else, something inhuman. The air crackled, the walls groaned, and for a moment, I thought the whole house would collapse around me. Then, silence. I don't remember leaving the attic. I don't remember driving back home. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in my car, parked outside my parents' house, my hands still shaking. My phone was in my lap. One final message lit up the screen. "You shouldn't have done that." I haven't gone back since. I don't know if I freed something or if I just made things worse, but the messages have stopped. The nightmares, however, haven't. I still see the mirror when I close my eyes. And sometimes, just for a split second, I swear I see something else in my reflection. Something waiting,